I can't walk you there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay, I've got calendar handouts. Who can help me hand them out? Actually, why don't we? Yeah, she's here. Thank you, Robin. Did you know they moved her classroom? She told me. Okay, the calendar is coming out. The most notable thing on this, and this is our last core. I don't know where to stand with the lights. I'll just move around. This is our last core until September. Everybody go, oh. Summer is coming. So we're going to pause core. We're going to pause Bible study. And home groups are going to continue. Your face, are you puzzled? Yeah.
I almost have puzzled on my face. I'm just saying.
You looked really concerned. I thought, did I mess something up? Oh, no. Okay. Okay, so does anybody have any questions? I put the start dates for September down at the bottom, so that's when we'll resume home group and Bible study. And then your home groups can just continue to meet however that has normally been, and those are all, schedules are all set anyway. You guys all know Mark and Dawn are on their way to Indonesia? Yeah, they will land. I told them the cool factor that they're going to Tokyo today, just like, I was fangirling a little. I was like, holy crap, they're going to Tokyo today. But anyway, then they're going to go to Jakarta. They'll land like 2 in the afternoon tomorrow. But I don't know what time it is over there. I don't know if it's back or forward.
They're definitely forward.
They're ahead. Okay. The only other thing I wanted to, SOS registration is open. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to have 15 slots for that. 2 are already gone. Like, it's not even open 24 hours. So if you're thinking about doing that, please register. Also, since this is the core, I'll just say this. It would be really good for you to be thoughtful if you've taken SOS and there are people in the family you really feel like it would be a benefit for, to like personally recommend that to them. Like, not just wait for the announcements to stir their heart or the video to even stir their heart, but like to personally say, hey, I thought of you, this would be really good. And it would be good to do that soon since it's a whole week. They'll need time to sort of make that commitment schedule-wise and what? Kendall should take it? Oh, Kendall. I'll let you talk him into that. The other thing I wanted to mention real quick, it's not on here, but there's going to be a baptism again. We don't have a date for that yet, but I wanted to mention it in case if that seed needed planting. It is coming up, I assume, August, but we're working on a date. So if that's on your mind, that is coming. Something else. Oh, okay. So on the back of your sheet, this is a double-sider. I know. It's amazing. It's in color. Don't tell Aaron. Don't tell Aaron. Okay, so this is, in the summertime, there's lots of vacation schedules, and we can often tell from the office side that people are away. Like with tithing, we'll just see it dip. Like it's kind of volatile all summer long. So if it's helpful to you, I wanted to show you that you can schedule that. So that just auto happens even if you're out of town, based on however you would like it to be. The instructions are there. It's very easy online. The other time, I had somebody do this one time. I had them actually, I don't recommend this, but I just thought it was so cool how dedicated they were. They handed me checks that were dated and signed and filled out, and I just was to put them in on those dates. And I did it all summer long. They were away all summer, but that's how they just did it. So I just thought that's really thoughtful to plan that far ahead, and I wanted to share that story. I thought that was very cool. Last thing on my list is, you guys know that Jocelyn has moved her kids' rooms, right? She is no longer split. Like, she's no longer that dear girl. She's no longer over here and over here. She's completely moved to this side of the building, and the K through 5th grade kids are in this big room here. There's one thing that we feel like we should maybe mention. If your current exit pattern is going out these doors, going down the hall, and cutting through that room to leave the main doors, it might be time to change your pattern. Like, she doesn't mind people walking through. It's not a major deal, but there would be times when that's not a good fit. So just be thoughtful that that is a classroom now when you're leaving. So, I mean, you can go out those exit doors. That's totally fine. You can go out these exit doors. But she said that some people have a pattern, and their pattern is through that room to leave. Yeah, so if that's you, this might be the time to change pattern. Yes, please.
And I'm going to move some things on the schedule here. So I don't know why anybody would go that way and then that way and then out, because we all know the Pythagorean theorem. Ashley, are you proud of me?
Yeah. Can you spell that?
No.
What is it, man?
It's a square plus b square equals c square. Okay? But
No clue if that was correct.
it's correct? All right. It's half correct. Autumn. We're going to go with the half of the correct. All right. So, are we really doing this? Really doing this? What it basically means is the shortest point, the shortest path is straight. Now, because I know people are like, oh, I have habits anyway. Our children are now going to be in that room over here. So it's not just a thing of you need to change your pattern because sometimes people walk through. No, this is actually a compliance issue to be compliant with the law, okay? And when we have people, when we have a room that's dedicated to children, we need to be very compliant with how we enter that room, who enters that room, all that kind of stuff, okay? So I want to be as transparent as possible with you on this. It's not simply, hey, could you change your behavior? It's we have to abide by the laws that are set up by our state, all right? And those laws are set up to protect our children, so we will abide by them, okay? So if your habit is to go out that way and to cut across, which is insane to me, stop the habit, okay? Because we want to make sure that we're compliant. And also, we want to give our security teams a chance to keep our people secure, all right?
You want them to make sure that if they go out that door, to shut that door.
Yep. And we need, and we need doors shut, especially when they're housing our children. That exterior door, right? And I know, because I've done it, the habit of walking through a door and then, especially with these doors, not turning around and ensuring that it's actually secured. If you go out that way, you need to make sure that that is done, okay?
Also, the foot stop on that door.
The foot stop. Oh, the foot stop fault.
Drop down,
Yeah.
And you think it's shut. And
It's not. It's just that much open. So
Don't go out that door.
it's best just to go out the main entrance, okay? That's what I ask. I understand that if you have a habit of going that way, and if you're going to go out those doors, then please ensure that it's, for our children. Yeah, I want to do financial. Yeah, I saw that. Now, I want to talk about our financial update. It's actually really encouraging. It's really encouraging from the standpoint of we're doing better than we projected our budget to be, okay? Which is awesome, okay? And I know last quarter I told you that we want to do more because there's just capital expenses that we have. If you look in the driveway, we need to fix the driveway. If we look at the lights, we need to fix the lights. There's a bunch of stuff, okay? And I'm not asking you for money for that yet. I'm laying, yes, the key word is yet, because I shall. But I'm laying it on your heart as our home that these things those things are important and they're out there in the future. But what I really want to celebrate is the idea that we're becoming more consistent with our giving. We're becoming more sustainable with our giving. And that doesn't mean that we have thousands of dollars. Right now, that means that we're meeting budget. And honestly, with our own personal finances, step one, right? Figure out a budget and meet your budget, and that's where we're at. So that's pretty awesome. So I want to celebrate that with us, the core. That being said, I go from celebrating to warning to celebrating to warning. Denver can attest to what giving looks like over the summer months. All right, and there is this dip that happens during summer, and I think it occurs because of proximity. All right, kind of out of sight, out of mind. And I'm going to give you a personal story. because this actually happened to us. I got my yearly giving statement, right, in January, February, right? January, February. And I looked at it and I saw a month was missing. All right? A month was missing, and it was out of it wasn't like, oh, we can't afford, none of that stuff. It was just simply, oh, a month, like how did we miss a month? It's that easy, right? And I felt no condemnation about it. The Lord wasn't like, your finances are cursed and all that stuff, like, no, all right, that's not what's happening. But we missed one, all right? We missed one. And it's easy to miss one. It can be easy to miss one, especially in the summer months, all right? But this place wants to continue going on. And for the things that we want to do, the things that are laid out in our future, the government doesn't allow us to print our own money yet. We're trying to petition the government for that. So we need to use like US dollars. So that's just a real thing. It's just how things operate. So I just want to make sure that we're aware that the summer months and your proximity and it being out of sight and out of mind is a real thing, because it happens. It happened to me, and giving is on my heart. So even with it on my heart, it happens. So what Diane has here as far as the online giving and setting up payments, I actually think it's easier for you. Okay, we do almost all of our finances online and paying it through the bank online. It's just, I don't remember. Gene always told me that you needed to carry this amount of cash, and it's one area that I'm not listening to, because it's so easy to be like, well, here we go. But this is a tool that we can use in order to maintain our giving, even when proximity isn't there. I want you to go on family vacations. Okay, I want you to have that time, but I want to be able to continue what's going on here, all right, and continue the amazing trend that we have so far with maintaining our budget, even going into these months that we usually see a lull. Okay, so that sound cool?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Chuck.
Yeah, I just felt really compelled that we should pray for this as a core group right now. And even looking around, our core group's dwindling a little bit as we get into the summertime. And I just, I don't know, as you were talking, I just felt really compelled we should all just sort of join our hearts for a minute here and bring this to the Lord. So, Father, we thank you for your provision. Lord, we thank you for the good report Ben gave, that we are meeting budget, Lord, and we're looking forward to that continuing. And, Father, just in light of some of the stuff we've talked about with vision and future and expectations we have here, Lord, we just lean on you for your provision over the summer, Father. And Lord, we just thank you that you are our Father. We thank you, you're a provider, Lord, and we want to steward well, Lord. We want to represent you well. We want our place to represent you well as we come here as a family. We want a good house to come to as others come in, and we're a witness to them of you, Lord, of your heart towards them. We want to represent you well, and part of that is going to be this place we need to provide and use. So, Father, we just put it before you and believe you that this summer we will continue to be prosperous in the financial area, Lord, that the funds we need to come in will come in, and Lord, that we will use them the best we can.
Okay. Now, if you are part of, or if you're on Facebook and you're following World Harvest or even Who Family or any of those kind of aliases for our Facebook, you probably saw that Summer of Sonship has now opened for registration. So we're very happy about that. And we wanted to take some time out to have some people talk to you about it, but not talk to you about it, like here's it, Summer of Sonship, I want to talk to you about it, but talk to you about them and their experience within it, okay? Because we really, like, our tool of discipleship really flows from this first. And then once you start getting that concept of the idea of sonship, the importance of your identity, really truly knowing who Jesus is and why Jesus did the things that he did, and why the Father, or how the Father looks at us, then we could actually start having a really good conversation about discipleship. Quote, I put those in quotes. If I had it my way, if I could write a discipleship book, you wouldn't pass the first chapter until you are solid in the fact that God is good. Like, you don't get to go to chapter 2 until you know that God is good. And then after that, under that lens of a good father who loves his children, then you could get to do the other stuff. Right? And that's what Summer Sonship, or even Sessions of Sonship, attempts to do with people really entering into who and into our family life, our family culture. So I'm going to ask Chris if you would come up here, and I think you were asked. You're giving me a look that scares me right now.
You don't be scared.
Like, come up here, and I want Chris to just give us his insights, and then we have some other people who are gonna. You can go straight into them.
Okay, Monica SOS Pro. Oh, don't read this. Most of you guys have done SOS, so I feel like I'm preaching to the choir a little bit, but I am gonna just explain, I guess, my understanding of it. One of the things I really appreciate about the Lord is that he is continually making himself more known to me, and a lot of times that changes my perspective of him. And if you've been here for any length of time, you know that as our perspective of the Lord has become that of a father, and that doesn't demote him as God and King. He's still God and King, but now we are sons of God and King. You know, it's important that we rise up to be with the Lord and not bring the Lord down to where we are. But what does that mean then? What does that mean to be a son? And you know, there's a real tricky thing with, you know, the word believe, because like, oh yeah, I believe that. But there's a difference between saying, I believe I can fly, and going like this off a 6-inch ledge, and saying, I believe I can fly, and climbing up to the roof and jumping off. I mean, there's a vast difference between saying I believe and actually truly believing it. And when you believe something, your actions completely change. You know, if I truly believe it, I'll climb up to the roof and I'll jump off because I truly believe it. And so, to truly believe you're a son changes everything kind of about the way you walk from any perspective that is not a son. It's really taking on the nature of the Father and becoming more and more like him. So where I would tie this into the SOS, you know, the sessions and summer, it's really an intensive focusing on that, focusing on kind of who the Father is, how we get that nature, how we then reflect that nature of the Father in us. And there's a lot of stuff that you go on in there, you think that, oh, I'm fine in, and you're like, wait a second, that way I'm walking currently doesn't line up with how the Father's walking. And the more open you are, the more you start seeing those change. Now, is SOS the only way you can become a son? No. Is it probably the fastest, most intensive way? That I know of right now, I'd say yes. So I would really encourage that, you know, if you believe in what we're teaching, you know, God, you know, Father, and you want to see that advance not only in this place, but in every place that you interact with, you have to walk that. You can't just say who's walking in that's good enough. You have to walk that. And I think this is a really good place to align yourself to that kind of thinking and to grow in that area. I was just thinking, we had Koinonia over here, and we had a lot of people who came in from all sorts of places, and I was talking to them about like the stuff that they just given up to come here. It's, you know, I took in 2 weeks off work. You know, I remember someone saying, didn't Charlie quit his job to come here? Did you tell me that? Yeah. One of the things I realized is like when I lived in New York is that I never really took for advantage of what actually was there. You know, sometimes I just lived there and say, oh, you know, the Empire State Building's there. Great, big deal. Statue of Liberty's there, big deal. Never took advantage of it. And I encourage you that just because you come here all the time to understand the value of some of the things that are going on. You know, don't just always think that, oh, I'm here and we're going to do it forever. You know, I can just catch on next time. It's really important because what's happening here isn't just happening here. You know, if you notice it's starting to go all over the world. Even look where Mark and Dawn are right now, you know, proof of it. So to sum it all up, I'd encourage you to join with all of us as we're trying to take this culture of the Father being the Father to not only Chambersburg, but to the world, and we need all of you to do that.
Thank you, Chris.
Hi. All right, has anybody not been to SOS? Can you raise your hand? There is two people. Three. Oh, Carlos. Well, for me, I don't want to miss out on anything. So, and this church is all about family. And to really experience it in a deeper way, I feel like when you go to SOS, that's my favorite saying right here is, our open hearts will open hearts. That is SOS. It is an opportunity to see what you can't see. You know, when sometimes you know that there's something kind of off in you, or you keep going around the same thing over and over, I feel like it's intimate enough that we can speak into each other's lives and say, oh, that's right, like that's what I'm doing, or that's who I really am. So I feel like it helps you to see what you're struggling to see, and I feel like you really experience family like as a church, not just as your own intimate family at home. This is the first church I've ever been to that I really feel family. And so, and I want to say for anyone that's here that's older, which I don't know, there's only 3 people that might be older than me. But I feel like it just gives you so much purpose and lets you realize that it doesn't matter what age you are, you have so much to give, so much to offer, and we need every single one. So I would say if you haven't been a part, don't miss out, because it's an investment like into this family and into yourself. So that's it.
Yeah, please. Wait, while she comes, I want to say this. Actually, no, you go ahead and then.
It's like super. Yeah, it's like a sentence. I was just, since most of us here have taken it multiple times, I was thinking as sons, it's our job to carry this forward and to spread it out. So tell your friends. It's kind of scary to just go up to a random person and that you think could like really benefit from this and be like, hey, do you want to go to this thing? And they have no idea what it's about, but it's should be our heart's desire to do that. So just encourage us to do that, because that seems to be, I don't know, we all have, almost everyone here has taken it. So yeah, that's about it.
This dear lady had to race here.
Yes, Lauren's up there.
You're fine. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not even totally sure where to start because my brain is all over the place. So, sonship. If you haven't done it, if you know people who haven't done it, it took twice for me, and then to get it, and then 202 has been unreal in applying it. So I can't begin without making it really long, and now we're behind schedule, so I don't want to do that with what my story is, but I'll happily sit down with you at any time. But I will say, is Ben here? Ben gave us a challenge last year about reconciling relationships. And my parental relationships were like, seriously. And so, big time. And when I came out of 202 for the first time, well, I reconciled with my dad last summer, which was huge. With my biological father, huge. But my parents who were here, we just kind of lived this like, oh, we live 5 blocks apart, we pretend we don't see each other. And after 202, I decided to intentionally start texting them every week. Just, hey, saying hey, kind of thing. And there was a day a couple weeks ago that was just, it was just a complete crap day. My husband was out of town, like everything went wrong at work. Our kids were falling apart. Like, it was just like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it is kind of funny, actually. And I left my job, which is, 45-minute drive, and I got in my car, and there was a text from my mother. And she reached out and apologized it was a text to me and my sister, actually saying that she had asked the Father for forgiveness time and time again over the years, but that this was her like public way of asking my sister and I to forgive her. And I can't begin to tell you just how the last couple weeks have been, but I'm telling you that had I not walked through sonship, I would have been like at that text in a hot minute. Thought nothing of it, would not have believed that there was any chance that there was truth or sincerity behind it. We all have it in us. Sometimes, in my case, I'm a little slower than most. It took a couple times. But I'm telling you, it is worth every penny. It is worth every second of a weekend or a week, whichever one you do. And like my word with Diane is brutal. It is brutal. It is horrible. I'm not going to lie. But it is the most beautiful thing at the end of that weekend. And the trust and family that I have, I knew before, but know it to every fiber of my being, having walked through that with this group of people. So please, like, not just for yourselves, I agree with Lauren, share it as much as possible, encourage people to, it takes bravery, it does, but just show up. Like, that's the worst part, is just showing up, just show up. So.
I have one small thing I want to share. Since so many of us have done it, can I just tell you my heart for a minute?
Yes.
So my heart is to tell your stories. Like, I could not believe in the testimony of Jesus in this family more than I do. It's really strong.
Right.
And we tend to undervalue the story of what the Father's doing in us, and we fail to realize it could be the key to somebody breaking through their own thing. Like, I even had somebody tell me yesterday they hate to brag on what the Lord has done for them because they feel like they'll cause someone else pain. I think we felt that way. Like, I hate to, like, get too excited or, like, shine too much because I know that's going to point out a hurt in somebody else that they're still in the middle of, and we don't want to hurt them. But we have to look at it the exact opposite way. We have to look at it that our testimony of the Father's faithfulness is what helps each other break through. Like, it helps, it inspires, it builds, like, it reminds us, to Ben's point, that he's good. It reminds us that he's faithful. It reminds us that he's always present, that he's in it all, that he's working through, like, all of those things. Like, I had somebody tell me today a story, like, it was the most unlikely thing. Like, it shouldn't have happened, but it was just so clear the Lord was doing it. Like, he wants us healthy. Like, it's who he is. And so we really, 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 really need to step over the thing that keeps us from telling our story. We have to stop it now. We have to tell the stories. Have to.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if they're big or small. It doesn't matter if they're like 20. Like, I told a story one day of 25 cents because the Lord gave me a stinking quarter. I'm like, holy crap, the Lord gave me a quarter. It's not even how size it is. It's his faithfulness that we have to tell about. We have to tell it. So please, if you're willing, come see me and say, okay, I'm ready to tell my story. Let me, however I can do, I'll stick a video camera in front of your face if you'll let me. I'll write it down if you'll let me. I'll do whatever, but please, we have to tell our stories. It can't just be the ones that we tag to come up and like drag it out of you essentially. Please tell us. No, like spill over with it. Just let it be the sound of this house all the time as somebody's telling us about the faithfulness of the Father. It's got to come out, please. And I'll help however I can for that. Is there anybody else on the SOS thing? Okay. Okay.
With the SOS thing, I sent a message to a friend this morning who I know is in the middle of really struggling with his identity, and he is finally ready to deal with a lot of the brokenness from his childhood. That was just something at Koinonia that he opened up and started coming out of him. And then when the SOS promo came out, I thought, oh, him. He's never taken it. He doesn't even know what it is. Like, he just started coming back to be part of our family, was part of us years ago. So when I messaged him today, he said, what is SOS? And I thought, oh my gosh, like, we actually still have people among us that this is still new to them. And the thing that I especially wanted to say is, so today is May 9th, and SOS is the first week of July. Telling people now, like tonight, people that come to mind this week, they have enough time to actually plan off work. Because it is 6 days of a commitment. And they will have to plan ahead. But think about it now and give them the opportunity to really let it stir in their heart and then be practical to plan ahead. Because some people do have jobs that they have to plan ahead for, that they have to get babysitting for, save up for, is what Diane just said. Yeah, all of those things are practical aspects of it. So it's not just a willingness to say, yeah, I want to give myself to going deeper in my sonship, but it's also the practical side. So let people come up in your spirit that you think this is really great, beautiful timing for them, but also do it in such a way that gives them the real time to get ready for it. So just don't wait on that, for their sake too.
So the SOS is awesome. Koinonia is awesome, right? We really value those times together, right? And the opportunity and just the, and we see how that fuel and actually establish our culture. But, you know, like if it all stops, if it would have stopped for Monica when that weekend was over, then she would think, oh, well, maybe if there's a 303 or whatever, then I'll sign up for that. But it didn't stop, because what was started, right, in SOS continued, and it had an effect, and is still having an effect, a tremendous effect, right? And it is truly the testimony of Jesus, right? So the same thing, and with Koinonia, see? I mean, like, so we're rubbing shoulders with people all the time. And some, yes, we have the relationship as such that we'll be able to invite them to SOS, or it would just, just work out, right? And that will be great. But the majority of the people that I interact with, I'm probably not going to invite to SOS, okay? But I still want to have my heart open to them, right? And I still want to tell my story, right? I don't want to, so we just don't tell our story here. Okay, but we do tell them here, because that's how we build up and encourage each other. So we want to talk a little bit about Koinonia stories, because, you know, Koinonia stories are not totally unrelated from SOS stories and vice versa. It's all part of this beautiful mix of the culture of the Father's house, right? Which we are so privileged to be part of, right? And it's a dynamic, organic thing. It's always changing, because we're always changing, right? And it's a beautiful thing. I love it. I can't get enough of it, even though I can't be with you all the time, okay? Right, Rajni? We're talking about having a commune and stuff like that, right? Off in the future. It's just a possibility, okay? With God, all things are possible. Anyway, that's aside. But, so, you know, in Acts chapter 2, and I'll just, like, you guys know the story. Okay, 120 are in the upper room, right? Holy Spirit falls, right? They're talking in other languages, other tongues, whatever that means. The people think they're drunk. Peter's like, no, we're not drunk. It's only 9 in the morning, you know? Too early to drink. Okay, but he said, this is what Joel was talking about. The Spirit's going to be poured out on everybody, right? Okay, what happens? 3,000 get saved. So they wake up in the morning, there's 120 in the upper room. They go to bed that night, there's 3,120 in the upper room, right? I bet they were like sardines, but okay, it was cool because it says they continued in the apostles' doctrine. Okay, they didn't have the New Testament. They had to tell their stories. You see what I mean? They had to tell their stories. They continued in the apostles' doctrine and koinonia and fellowship and in breaking of bread, okay, and in prayer. These guys were serious about it. And none of us would be here right now if they weren't serious about it. If they would have quit telling their stories, they're going to say, okay, well, we're just going to we're going to have another event. Let's schedule an event next year. It's not about the event. It's about the ongoing stories. But when we do have the event, because we bring in the out-of-town people, right, it's a beautiful thing. So what we want to do is open this up right now for some koinonia stories, not just for the sensationalism of it, but for the highlighted, Father showed me something here, I learned something, take away, this is going to apply, this is changing me, okay? So, are you with me, Amanda? You know what I mean? Like something that impacted you. It could have been on the way, anything. Something that you're like, aha, Dad highlighted that, or I saw that, I felt the Spirit, this really touched me, whatever language you want to use. Just tell some stories, okay? I'll give you a quick one while you're collecting your thoughts, because I think I want to hear a lot of people, okay? So we went, what day did we go bowling with the kids, Jen? Friday morning, okay. So we took the kids bowling, okay. We were going to do an outreach, it was raining, no problem, you know, we go bowling. It was awesome, right? So we had 20-some kids, and I think maybe 8 or 9 of them were from out of town, which is beautiful. I love it, right? Okay, and so we had a lot of fun. So I had the guys, okay, and I think we had, I don't know, maybe 7 guys, okay, and so they're having fun. I mean, they're bowling. Okay, so one of the guys, second time it's his turn. His ball, jumps up in the, it really jumps up into the, gutter, right? Okay, who hasn't done that? I mean, I do that most of the time, okay? Right? But it really rocked him. And he's like, and the other, I mean, okay, it happens, right? So he gets bummed out. And he's just a little guy. And he starts to cry. Nobody's really making fun of him. I mean, it's just like, it's like, okay, that happened. That's crazy, right? Look at that. Okay. But it bummed him out. He didn't want to play anymore. And so when, other guys are up, and when it's his turn again, he's not wanting to, nope, he's not going to do it, and he's still like sniffing a little bit. He don't want anything to do with bowling. He's done bowling, So he had a couple of biological siblings there. One of them steps up and says, hey, let's do it together. And he's like, I don't want to bowl anymore. I'm not bowling. Okay. So his brother does it for him to keep the score, keep it going, right? Keep the rotation going. Next time around, the same deal. About third time around after that, he stands up. Because the other guys, everybody was rooting for him. Everybody was encouraging him. Everybody they didn't want him to quit. And finally he stands back up and he says, I'm back in the game. Yes, it was awesome. It was crazy. And everybody the guys are like, yes. And so for the rest of the time, he had a great time. Okay, and I'm thinking now, why can't adults do that? Okay, first of all, this guy didn't have keys to a car. But adults who get offended, or ticked off, I'm out of here. Get in the car, gone. No chance to connect and heal together and get over it, right? And I'm like, lesson right there. So, you know, I got a lot of takeaways from that. One of them is just like stay in the game. I mean, stay connected, right? Even if, okay, I'm going to back off a little bit, but don't jump ship. Yeah, no. Monica, thank you for not jumping ship. Look what's happening now. It's exploding. It's going to keep exploding. So who has another one? Okay, who has it? Ollie has it. What do you say, Ollie? He's holding back. He's still thinking. Come on, guys. Everybody has one. Who was at Koinonia? At least one time. Okay, we're going to start in the back row. No. We could do that, but somebody come up. Please. Okay.
I didn't even think of it until he started talking, but I have an example of exactly what you were sharing. I think it was Friday night also. Probably like halfway through worship, I just like, I don't know, I just really shut down. Like I was really, I think it was a lot of things, just looking around, thoughts that were coming in that weren't true, but I just really started to shut down. And was it Friday night that was Harold?
Yes.
I think it was that night. Anyway, and so then that happened, and he was sharing his deal, and that, I still don't get why everybody was up here, but like it just didn't feel like it applied to me, and I was like one of the only ones in the back, and that further irritated me, and I was just like, I was really, really struggling. I mean, I absolutely closed my heart, so like just for that period, which, anyway, so after that was the one night we had childcare. They were going to sleep at my mom's. Like, we had kind of decided we would hang out. You know, if there were people doing stuff, like, we would hang out. But I was, like, in no mood at all. So I huffed up to my husband after and very adamantly told him that I want to go home. And cursed at him a couple times about different things and just said, I'm leaving. And he, of course, was looking at me like, you can't leave. Like, this is the one night. What do you say? Not leaving him. Just going home. Not leaving him. Just I wanted to go home. I didn't want to hang out. I didn't want to be around people. I specifically said, like, I don't want to be around these people. I don't want to get over it. I don't want to talk about it. I want to go home. Like, I don't want to be here. And he's like, we don't let our kids do this. You're not doing this. Like, you're not leaving this way. And he was basically like, he even said at one point, like, you just don't want to be called up. I'm like, call someone else up. I'm going home. And I like walked out. I'm so mad. Anyway, the night progressed. I ended up talking to him a little bit more about it, but I did go home. And then the next morning, they wanted to do like hey everybody, like we want to sit here and like share your experiences. And it was really good. Like it was really good. And I was just listening to everybody share, and like my heart, I guess, was just better. Like I literally like slept and I woke up better. So I don't really know even to this point if it was something going on inside of me or if I was just feeling other things in the room. I have no idea, but I had gotten over it for the most part. And I'm sitting here and like I'm really touched by everything everyone is saying, and I'm almost wanting to get up and just be like apologizing to the family because I had shut my heart closed my heart and just wasn't participating, and so I wasn't giving myself and I wasn't receiving of people either. So both, just damaging on both. Anyway, I was this close to like wanting to like, yeah, and I want to like apologize because I just love you all and I'm back in the game. But I just remembered it didn't seem to fit. It just didn't seem like it was the right time at any point. And I just remembered something that Autumn told me, that like at any point, like when you're a son, at any point, if you've forgotten and you remember, it's just that easy. Like you can just remember. Like you can just take your seat back. You can take your seat back. And so I was like, I guess this doesn't have to be a big deal. Like I can have forgotten, and that's okay. And now I remember, and I'm back. And I don't have to grovel for a week and a half or like feel bad about it or even like really make a scene and apologize in front of the family. Like I can just be back. Like, so it kind of just reminded me from what Kendall said. So.
All right, so my home group has already heard this, so you guys can just whatever. So this is, it's kind of, yeah, go for it. You're fine. They get a pass. No, it's just kind of funny because so how many people know that here about 6 to 8 months ago I switched jobs. I'm no longer working at where I was working. I'm working in a new place. And I saw it not as necessarily leaving something that I had cultivated for a really long time behind, but as a new opportunity to step into something new with God. And so I have been intentionally, essentially kind of SOSing my coworkers, whether they do it or not, over the last 8 months. And I haven't really seen like any big changes or any like huge heart turns or anything like that. But I didn't care. I was still doing it anyway. You know, just living the Koinonia culture and SOS in my work. And it was funny because I had a sit-down. I have a sit-down meeting with my boss every week. It's called our one-on-one, and we sit down. And basically, like 90% of the time, I'm done telling him what I'm doing for the week. You know, in like the first 5 minutes, and then we just sit there and shoot the breeze for 25 minutes, just and hang out. And it's actually pretty fun. I've never had a boss that was this engaged in what I'm doing and my goals and all that kind of stuff. So it's been a very interesting twist for me. But during our last one-on-one about a week ago, he sat down and he was just going over like projections of things that we're going to be working on over like the next 8 months or so, and he was like, okay, he says, and the other thing too is that they just announced recently that they're restructuring our section. And so he sat down and he was like, so what do you think of the restructure and like how does that affect you basically? Because apparently he's had a lot of one-on-ones that day where people were just not happy about it. Like, there are so many people that are completely upset about this going on. And I told him, I was like, honestly, I said, I don't see a restructuring. Like in my mind, I don't see a restructuring as, oh my gosh, you know, like what am I going to do now? Like I've been doing this for so long and now this, I'm not going to be able to do it anymore. I'm going to have to go over here and do this and it's going to suck. Uh-oh. Oh, we died. We're out of power.
Maybe that word wasn't enough. Turn out. On the bottom, there it is.
Hello. There we go. All right, we're back. So anyways, I told him, I was like, I don't look at restructurings that way. I said, I look at restructurings as an opportunity to step into something new and start working on something maybe I haven't done before. And he was like, you know, he says, there's something about you. He was like, you've been here for what, like a little over a year now? And I just looked at him, I was like, no, I've been here for about 6 months. And he was like, there's no way. He said, man, it feels like you've been here so much longer than that. And he was like, but I tell you what, he says, out of the last 6 months, he was like, you are one of the only people in this entire section that I can count on to be the same every time. Like every morning whenever I get on the phone, every morning whenever I'm in our board meetings and all that kind of stuff, I'm always ready to work, happy, ready, you know, like to help out whoever needs helped out in the meetings and all that kind of stuff. And he was like, he says, I don't know what it is. He was like, but like since you've come on, he was like, I think the overall morale of our entire section is starting to just slowly go up. And he was like, and he says, it's just pretty cool to see. He says, I think hiring you was a really good, one of the better decisions we've ever had. And I just started laughing. I was like, well, I appreciate the kind words, sir. You know, but it shows you, yeah, it just shows you that even if you don't think you're making a difference where you're at, you know, as long as you're living the culture and you're open with everybody that you work with, it is making a difference to them. And I mean, it sometimes will maybe take a one-on-one with you and your boss for you to find that out, but it's a good thing.
Amen.
I've got a little bit of a cold, so I'm going to try to tell a story anyways. Something that happened to me at Koinonia was I wasn't able to be here very much because I worked a lot that weekend. But I was really looking forward to Saturday because I knew it was the day that I had the whole day to just be with people. And when I got to see the list of which home group I was in, and honestly, I was really surprised by my response to it. Because when I saw the list of everyone I was with, my first response to it was, oh man, because I was with a lot of people that I'm very familiar with. And to me, I thought, I spend time with them all the time. Like, you know, this is kind of unexpected because one of the things I really anticipate in our Saturday hangouts at Koinonia is that I'm with people that I don't know at all. And that it's an opportunity to make new connections or to pick up a thread from someone that I had met the last Koinonia and I get to know them a little bit deeper. But what I realized was happening inside of me was that familiarity had started interfering with my experience of people. And so I just took the moment and realizing that that was my reaction to who I was going to be with to say, okay, I need to hit reset on how I see all of these people. Because even though these are people that I see every week, like I did get to be with Gary and Robin, and I don't get very much time with them. And you were two faces. I was like, okay, well, I don't know you very well. That's great. I get to go into your hearts, and I've never really had that opportunity. But to sit with Lauren Diefenbach and Julia Jones, who I do get to spend time with, something really beautiful happened for me where I had to hit reset on the fact that I was sitting with very familiar, close sisters, and I wanted to go into that time together and think, you know what? I want to access a part of your heart that I've never accessed. I want to ask questions I've never asked before. I want to open myself up in maybe a way that I haven't for a long time or maybe ever. And so that was kind of a blessing for me, this koinonia, was because familiarity was kind of the theme for me for the weekend, where I had to keep hitting reset, refresh, And then I think sometimes because we see each other week to week, we think we know. I know who that guy is. I know what I need to know about that guy. But it's really not true. I think that if we came in with a fresh mind and a fresh heart with each other every time we saw each other, then how we make koinonia, like when you see the Strombecks and when you see Gabby and Lily, because you don't get to see them very often, or name anyone from out of town, there's this excitement inside of you. But this koinonia, what I thought is, when I see Kendall next Sunday, when I see Jen, when I see Chuck, when I see any of you, I want to have that kind of excitement inside of me that even though I haven't seen you for 5 days, I can't wait to just see you. And that even though I'm just asking about your week, I want to ask about your week the way I ask about their year. Because that to me is what koinonia needs to be, is fresh every time. And that we don't take each other for granted, because there are riches inside of all of us. And because of how familiar we are with each other, I think sometimes we neglect asking things of each other, drawing things from each other that are always available, but we just overlook it. So that was something I came out of really, really grateful for, was just really fresh perspective and a brand new hunger for us. And I think as we go forward here, like, I'm hungry for the core. Like, I actually came into this core hungrier than I've been for this group of people than I probably have maybe ever coming into a core. Or it probably hasn't been this fresh since the very first one we did. Because guys, look around this room. We are the core, and that means something. So I really wanted to encourage you, look at one another with fresh eyes. Ask new questions. Ask old questions, but brand new. I just think that there's a freshness available to us, and it's time to really start drawing on that. And that was my experience.
I'm going to stay seated. So I had an experience on Sunday morning last week that was very deep for me. I think, was it Saturday morning when Mark called us out and we were, he called us forward? Was it Saturday morning? It was crazy because, and maybe what the Lord has been doing in me over the past few years is that I've gone from going to church, I think living sonship really, but with the Father, but not so much with people. And so, and maybe even just with some hurts from the past, it's been hard to see a father. And so, so Saturday morning was crazy because, he's like, if you consider yourself a son, I forget how he asked it, but however he asked it, I remember, we were sitting pretty close to the front anyway, but we had to move up. And in my heart, I knew that to go deeper with my father, I needed to surrender my pride. And so Sunday morning, I just had a moment with Mark and Dawn that was really beautiful, and it was healing for me personally. And then it was like after I had that moment with them, it was like something broke with the Father, and I was in His heart, and I was in the womb, and it was crazy. And I know I'm expecting, and I was just feeling like that place, that depth with the Father. Of what He saw, what He imagined for me when I was in the womb. It was so, so deep. And it was family. It was this safe place. And it was just really beautiful. And I love all of you. And, you know, I think kind of a plug for SOS, back to SOS, because they are connected. I remember when we first came, I was stubborn about wanting to be part of SOS because I thought, I'm already walking this. Why do I have to do it their way? Just being real. But it is so much about family, and it's not just discipleship for discipleship's sake, but it's walking me and the Father with His family. And it's just something really, really new and beautiful and expanding in me.
So I feel like even like with what Autumn was saying, had this been a long time ago, I have this joke going with Diane that like, it'd be really nice if the Who calendar would kind of go through my event schedule before we put the stuff on, because, you know, a lot of times I can't go to things, and I really thought this was going to be a koinonia that I could, and it turned it out to be just like school stuff and kid stuff that got in the way. And had this been a little while ago, I would have just opted to bail out. You know, just made excuses that, well, I can't be there for most of it anyway, so what's the point? And I just realized that there were so many of you, so many of our family from abroad that I didn't want to miss, that even if I only buzzed in for an hour, that I wanted that hour. And so even Friday night, like when I talked to Maddie, I said, okay, so you have hangout time? She said, yeah, Saturday, which was like prom, there was a lacrosse game, there was no way. So I made up my own. And I literally walked around like randomly asking people like, do you want to go to my dinner house for dinner tomorrow night? Because like I was just craving to be with people. And it started out as just like a couple, and then, you know, like I invite you and you ended up bringing people with you. And there was like 30 people who showed up for dinner, and it was the coolest thing ever. And I'm sitting there like as people kept texting going, can I bring such and such? And I'm like, all right, Lord, fishes and loaves, dude, this is just gonna work. Like, I don't know what to do here. Like, but I'm telling you, like, even though I missed all day Saturday, I didn't get here till after Elijah went to prom, so it was probably 8 o'clock maybe. But I feel like you have to allow the Father to kiss you His way. Like, the thing with my mom, like, I was having a crap day that day, and I looked down, and like, that was the kiss from the Lord. You know what I mean? And even Koinonia week, like, I didn't really get to hear most of the speakers. I bought all their books because I couldn't, but the moments, the little that I got with you guys were so amazing. Do you know what I mean? They were kisses from the Lord, and so don't miss them.
Denver, you going? No, you're good. No, he was just in between. Okay, we got. Is there anybody else? Somebody else? I know there's somebody else. Everybody. Okay.
We're going to stay on this. I just want to say this. Okay, so do you guys remember a couple weeks ago when Kim got up and like sang her song? I got a testimony.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I wasn't here that Sunday, but that video
Oh my gosh. I literally sat here and wept because I'd heard something I'd never heard before. Like it was a new part of Jesus I hadn't heard. And I'm having that same moment right now.
Oh, glory.
I like live for these moments when I hear you guys' hearts and you're just open. It's just, like I cry a little. Like it's just so beautiful. So I just want to say thank you.
Wait, I've got one more. Okay, go ahead.
Somebody was going to say,
Yeah, you go.
Yeah.
Kim Embry just texted me first, so I'll be first.
Oh, okay. When you first asked this, it made, and I was trying to think what impacted me this weekend, or the Koinonia weekend. It was Harold that night when he started boldly proclaiming the Spirit over us. And I didn't talk to Harold afterwards to find out, I don't think he planned that. I think you could tell in his demeanor, he was just like, all right, this is what we need to do tonight. And it was a little different for me. I mean, I've seen that before, and it was bold, and I really liked it. Like, I think it shocked us. I don't know what other people felt, and I think it's something coming for us. Not necessarily in his way of doing it, but I think there's a boldness we're going to start to carry and have to carry to do the things we want to do. And especially in this court, I mean, continue to be a safe place. We're allowed to make mistakes, but I think this boldness, and I think it's going to come out of different people different, and we're going to have to hold back judgments and offenses. But this partnering with the Spirit, this like actually doing the things that we read of, like I'm going to lay my hands on and anoint you with whatever I have and speak into you and boldly proclaim things. I don't know, as you were asking, like I hadn't even thought about this till you said that, and I think that's something for our family. Like I think if we talk about stepping up, like I think it's a stepping up for us. Like it's a time to like practice these things. Like to go to another level of almost crazy. Uncomfortableness. Wearing a Christmas shirt in the middle of the summer, I don't know. Whatever it is for you, like you just do it. And so I see that is my takeaway. Like that's a season we're headed into, so we should look out for it.
I mean, I'm avoiding this, but I wasn't going to come to the family gathering because ever since my last SOS, can't speak right, I've been really struggling with back issues, and I've come a long way. I've gotten a lot better, but it's like something that comes up every day at some point, and I'm so glad I went. I talked to Diane, and she was like, I think it's good that you come, and sometimes it's hard to come with weakness. And I'm used to always being involved with being a leader, being strong for everybody else, encouraging everybody else. And it's really hard for me to come, and I'm not jumping all over, going wild because I don't even know my age and I just can go crazy. But it was so good that I came. And when I was talking about family, I mean, my experience was sometimes I had to sit, sometimes I had to go on a couch, sometimes I disappeared, no one knew where I was because I'm doing something about my back. And all through the weekend, different ones were either just loving me, praying for me, and I felt like such an empowering feeling. I felt like I was really loved and vulnerable to let others be with me when I'm weak. And so SOS, going back to that, it's really an opportunity to let people in, not where you're just strong, but where you're weak. And so I feel like the whole weekend, I left with so much hope. I felt like that whole Friday night, I felt like this authority, this like, I just had so much hope. In fact, on Tuesday, I was outside. I was like, man, I feel like I'm doing yard work. I'm moving better. I just felt so empowered, and it was the love. It was letting people in when I'm feeling vulnerable, and just all the love all weekend long. And I just loved every part of it. So that's it. I feel like I'm rambling a little, so I'm sorry.
So Kim Embry is watching online right now. Hey, Kim. Laura, in response to hers, she said it is so hard to come with weakness. And she really connected with that and thanked you for sharing your thoughts. But she said it just adds such strength deep inside when you come forward with your weakness. But the thing that she really wanted to share was her testimony about Koinonia was just how much better it was for her this time. Better because she said, I started to reach out intentionally with different people. It helped me to keep my heart open longer through the weekend. My body complained, but my heart stayed more open. She said, I started reaching out before the weekend, and that really made the difference. That she just came intentionally in a way that she hadn't before, and that she was making connections with people beforehand, so that when she got here, the connecting was sort of already established, and then she could go deeper with people and really get the fullness out of the weekend. And that made the difference for her compared to other experiences that she was really grateful for by the end of it. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that, Kim. She says, hey guys. So.
We obviously could have more, but it's always to be continued, okay? But let me just say this one thing. I shared that verse where, you know, right after Peter preached, and there were 3,120, okay? And it says that they continued, you know, in the apostles' teaching and koinonia, breaking of bread and prayer. Now, I want to read just the first part of the next verse. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe. I want that. And I know I'm not the only one. I kind of can muster it up myself a little bit, or sometimes I have it. But I want it more. Don't you? Listen, we're not going back and recreating, or like saying we got to get back to the original new. No, we're honoring them and building on that, but we're going to go further because they want us to go further, right? The cloud of witnesses wants us to go further. So when things get really crazy and are up in the air and all kinds of crazy stuff, it's you know, growing pains, part of the opportunity. But I'm looking to keep feeling a sense of awe with you guys. We got some time reserved for a little Bible study, right, Ben?
Yeah, related to this. Because I don't want to take us away from this, but I want us to go into the scriptures and talk about this idea. Do you think I could put this on? Okay. Well, first I want to give you my quick koinonia experience, and then go into some scriptures. The kids' song, was a punch in the gut for me. So what happened with me was I'm standing right here, and the kids are singing probably the most mature song from word standpoint that I've heard in a long time. And that includes a lot of songs, but from what they produced, it was one of the most mature sounds that I've heard in a long time. And at one point, I just couldn't take it anymore. Right? Couldn't take it anymore. So I'm on the floor here, and I'm weeping weeping, I can't explain. I can't, you know what that's like. All right? And I couldn't get up because I felt like there was like a foot on my back, and just be like, stay down there, and just do the thing or let the thing happen to you that needs to happen to you. But I'm weeping, and there's just a weight on me. Okay, it's like this weight. So I go into my Bible and I'm trying to figure out what the weight was after I had, because I got up from here finally when I lifted up, and I got over here to where Jovi was, and then boom, just again, I'm down again. I can't even take it. And it wasn't just pride in my daughter, but it was like a real weight. So I'm going through the scriptures and I'm trying to figure out what is this thing that's weighted on me. And the Lord brings me to this passage that I'm going to read to you. It says, it's Matthew 18. I'm going to read it from the Passion Translation because that's what I do, but my wife tells me I have to give you warning. I'm reading from the Passion Translation right now. So if it's hard for you to follow along, just listen. Matthew 18:5 says, "And if you tenderly care for this little one on my behalf, you are tenderly caring for me. But if anyone abuses one of these little ones who believe in me, it would be better for him to have a heavy boulder tied around his neck and be hurled into the deepest sea than to face the punishment he deserves." And this is the Jesus I really like. I really like this Jesus who says, mess with one of my kids and you're going to really feel my wrath. I like it. Because I think sometimes we portray Jesus in this very it's our perception of loving doesn't always include I will kick your... And I think every single mother here understands that feeling even more than dads, because if I saw my son get into a fight, I would be like, okay, let's see where this goes a little bit. I want to see if he can win, right? But a mother, the second that a child is, you don't want to get in the way, all right? Just like a mother bear, okay? You don't want to get in the way of that. And this is the mothering side of Jesus that I love to see, because he's saying, hey, you need to understand what the weight of these children that you have in your presence is. That this, having a boulder around your neck and thrown into the deepest sea, isn't even the punishment. That's what will be good for you. You want to get a full picture of Jesus? Read that scripture and tell me that Jesus is kidding around. He's not kidding around. So the weight of lives was actually on my back, holding me down. And it wasn't a scary weight. It was an honor that we get to steward lives. And it didn't matter if it was children from 6 to 96. It didn't matter. Okay? So that was my koinonia experience. And I really feel still the weight of it. And there are going to be more children coming through these doors. There are going to be more children birthed. They're going to be, it's coming. It shall. All right? So the children leading us is a sign. All right? And I'm not saying sign of wonders, but it is something that's breaking in the atmosphere. And I honor Jocelyn for what she's doing. I honor Jen. I honor Ashley. I honor all those people who were really intentional with the kids during that time to produce something that mature. It was, man. All right, I can't even explain it with words. But that was the weight, okay? And I think Jesus at times said these things like, listen, I can't make this all lovey and dovey for you because you really need to know what the weight of this is. And we need to know what the weight of stewarding this place actually is. And that's why we have this core, and that's why you come, because you actually want to know what the weight is. And you want to share in the weight. So it's weighty. But I want to talk about koinonia, and I want to talk about the event addiction that we need to avoid. Okay? Because I came, and I know I'm probably going to go a little over. You could leave, but you're not going to want to miss this. It's not what we do. So I grew. But just don't walk that way and out there. Yeah. So I grew up in the church I went to Sunday school and then I went to youth group. And when we went to youth group, we got to go to retreats. Right? We went on youth retreats. And they were every winter. And I would go into youth retreat and I would just have an experience with God. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to live my life for God. And then we drove down the mountain, and then it was like, I forgot God was with me. Like like all that stuff, right? And what happens to us quickly from a Christian standpoint, or as we grow up into this thing, is we get so addicted to the event that we start looking for. It's just a form of addiction, all right? It's a form of addiction to have these events in order to actually experience who Jesus is, all right, or the thing that Jesus has for you. So I want to look at a major event in the scriptures that kind of mimics this thing that we have going on, and it's the Transfiguration, all right? And you talked about this a few weeks ago. But if you go to Matthew 17, and you don't have to go there, but I'm going to read it. I want to read I think it's like 7 verses, that's the Transfiguration. So it starts off with saying, 60 days later, Jesus took Peter and his 2 brothers, Jacob and John, and hiked up the mountain to be alone. Very much my youth group experience. We're going up to the mountain to meet God. And God doesn't live on a mountain, okay? You don't have to go up to a mountain to meet God. But the 6 days after is 6 days after Jesus said to these guys, hey, if you want to follow me, you have to disown your life. Like if you really want to be with me, you have to disown your entire life. That's the 6 days after. It's also 6 days after Jesus said that some of you, and it says here, but I promise you, there are some standing here now who won't experience death until they have witnessed the coming of the Son of Man in the presence and power of the kingdom realm of God. 6 days later, the Transfiguration happens. And we're like waiting for this time, and we're like, well, who's still around from that time? Aren't they all dead? Because if this was true, if we take Jesus literally, he's the worst prophet of all time, right? Because, like, I think everybody from back then has died. But here he is 6 days later. And here, he's taking him up the mountain. Then Jesus' appearance was dramatically altered. A radiant light as bright as the sun poured from his face, and his clothing became luminescent, dazzling like lightning. And he was transfigured before their eyes. All right? That's the event. Right? That's the event that sometimes we experience. Oh my God, I see Jesus. He's really clear. He looks like light. It's awesome. I'm seeing Jesus for all his glory. And that's the event that we get addicted to, right? Because if we feel like if we're not seeing that constantly, then we're not connected to Jesus, right? Like, that's what happens most of the time when we have these experiences. But these experiences are meant to propel us into everyday walking with Jesus. So, he has transfigured before their very eyes. And then suddenly Moses and Elijah appeared, and they spoke with Jesus. Why Moses and Elijah? Why not Abraham and Isaac? Have you ever thought about that? Have you ever thought why Moses and Elijah? I'll tell you. The reason why is because Moses is an embodiment of what? The law. And Elijah is the embodiment of what? Prophecy. So there, standing in front of Jesus, is the embodiment of law and the embodiment of prophecy, all being informed by who? Jesus. So they come to him and they talk with him. But what we do is we try to go to talk to them in order to talk to the one who they're talking to. Does that make sense? That make sense? So we chase down prophecy, and we chase down law, and we chase down prophecy, and it would be probably a good idea to chase down Jesus. I'm not saying that prophecy is not good. I'm not even saying discipline and law. Jesus is the fulfillment of law. But if you want to chase law, why don't you just chase Jesus? Because you would get the fulfillment of law. So here they are, the embodiment of law and the embodiment of prophecy, all being informed by Jesus. Okay? So, then Peter blurted out. How many times have you blurted out something because you're in the moment of something? Oh Lord, I see your face, I'm going to do this, and then you go down the mountain. Right? Peter blurted out, Lord, it's so wonderful that we are all here together. If you want, I'll construct 3 shrines, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. This is probably the dumbest thing you can say. But we say majorly dumb things when we're caught up in those moments. Okay? And this is what we actually do with events. We actually create shrines of the event, and now it forces us to go visit those shrines in order to feel the thing that we felt at the event. But is Jesus there? I know Jesus is everywhere. All right? I get it. But was the action of you going back to the event and trying to recreate the feeling of the event, the transfiguration, the event, the thing that Jesus wanted you to walk away with? So in our lives, we build shrines to these times where we've experienced God, and we try to build this physical, like here's what temple. Hey, I experienced God here. I need to go back and do these things in order to experience Him again. And He's like, no, what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to move forward. And those things are part of your life. They build you, but you're not meant to stay here. You're not meant to build a temple on this thing. What you're meant to do is to continue to walk with me. So, moving on to verse 5. But while Peter was still speaking, a radiant cloud composed of light spread over them, enveloping them all, and God's voice suddenly spoke from the cloud, saying, "This is my dearly loved Son, the constant focus of my delight. Listen to Him." Doesn't God says shut up in the nicest ways. Like in the nicest way, God's like, Peter, shut up. This is not like, no, do not do this. What I need you to do is not focus on building a shrine, but I need you to focus on who? Jesus. I need you to focus on the very presence of Jesus, because what you're going to do is build a shrine over here for His presence, and His presence is right in front of you. And His presence isn't luminescent, and it's not shining like lightning, and it's not doing any of those things. It actually is flesh and blood walking with you, and you don't need the shining bright event thing in order to be fully convinced that Jesus is walking with you. So He brings it back to the focus that needs to be focused on. Hey, guys, you're thinking about Him shining bright. You're thinking about Moses, and you're thinking about Elijah, and if you can get focused back to who Jesus is, then you don't need to worry about creating shrines or having events to sustain you in this walk. Now, every single testimony is awesome. I love them. We know that they defeat the enemy. But they're meant to spur on more action. They're meant to spur on more action. So the three disciples were dazed and terrified by this phenomenon, and they fell face down to the ground. But Jesus walked over and touched them, saying, "Get up and stop being afraid." That's a whole thing in itself, right? We could talk about that for a long time, but get up and stop being afraid. I won't. Okay. And when they finally opened their eyes and looked around, they saw no one else there but Jesus. That's really cool. At the end of the day, Jesus is there. Now, I think this is the most important verse in this story. For me, it's the most important verse in this story coming up. As they all hiked down together, Jesus ordered them. So they're going from the place of experience, from the place of event, and they're leaving that place, and who is with them? Jesus. And how are they walking down that place? Together. So what I want us to understand about the Koinonia event versus the Koinonia lifestyle is that if you become addicted to events, the more I would have to just put more and more and more and more and more events out there just so that you can feel that you're connecting with Jesus. There is a better way. There's a better way of everyday walk with Him. And I'll give you an example. When I first saw my wife at the end of the aisle in her wedding gown, ready to come down to me, I I'm tearing up because I'm seeing the radiance of her beauty in that time. I recognize that she's a bride. But if I need to see her in that way, in physical form, for me to recognize that she's a bride, I have lost the essence of who she is. I love that day where she was put in her gown, all dressed in white, decked out, beautiful, but that wasn't the end of our lives. And too many times, the event becomes the end of the pursuit, and that is not what we're meant. Like, when she came down and we said I do together, that was the start of the pursuit. That wasn't the end of the pursuit. That was the very start, the commitment that I'm going to continue to pursue you for all the days of my life. And this is the commitment that we need to have with Jesus. I'm not, and I know he's the groom, but you understand, all right? I don't need to have the event of him shining like lightning, in his clothes luminescent. I don't need to have Moses and Elijah here. I don't need to have all that. I need to have the commitment of Jesus every day walking with me in my life. And in that way, a quarter actually becomes a miracle. Okay? In that way, the little things that are happening in your life, you won't pass them by or allow them to pass you by without you recognizing who Jesus is in them. So, are we going to still have koinonia events? Absolutely. Are we going to still have family gatherings? Absolutely. I mean, look, in the old, I know it's the Old Testament, but even the Father was like, hey, I want you to party on these days. All right? Hey, don't forget to have a party. We need to have a party. All right? I think those things are really cool. I think we need to have the events. I don't want to become trapped into the addiction of event. I actually want to be raptured into who Jesus is. That's the rapture I'm looking for. Who Jesus is. So, I'm going to close and pray, because I think this is important. So, Father, I don't want to be driven by event. I don't want to have these highly intense emotional experiences in order to be completely solidified in my confidence and my belief that you're in every single thing in my life, and that you're showing up, and that you're real, and that you're involved. So, Father, while I honor the events, and I honor those times, and I honor those testimonies, and I honor the things that you have done, and I will never, ever belittle them, I will use them to propel us forward. Because there's more of you to experience. There's more of you to learn. There's more of you to be, more revelation of who you are. There's more of you that I'm excited to learn about. And I can only really learn about them if I don't enshrine my experience here. But I move forward. So, Father, this family won't become addicted to experience or event, but we will feed off of the very presence of who you are. The very nature of who you are. The very presence of Jesus. So I thank you for what you have done, and I honor it. And I fully am excited, and I anticipate the great things that you're going to do in this place, in these next days, in these next months, in these next years. We thank you, Jesus. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, 5 minutes over. I'm sorry, not sorry. Not sorry that I'm not sorry. We love you. Just remember that where our schedule for the summer is changing, I would actually encourage you to meet with your home groups more. Meet with your home groups more. Use your Wednesdays to connect with people. Don't allow your experience of the family to roller coaster in the time that we take for summer. We're actually giving you time to pursue each other even more. So with that, I say good night. Love you all. Oh, and continue to pray for Mark and Dawn as they're over in Indonesia. Please.